Excellent. And so he gave a presentation of his views about the rationality or otherwise of drug classification, and he was subsequently sacked from this position. He had previously made similar representations about ecstasy, specifically saying that he didn't feel that ecstasy was particularly dangerous, and that was they were wanting to change the classification of ecstasy in the UK. And that was ignored as well. So he then produced this paper, Equacy, an overlooked addiction with implications for current debate on drug harms. And Equacy was his take on the number of deaths resulting from horse riding in the UK in comparison to the number of deaths from ecstasy. And there was about 3 times the number of horse riding deaths. Well, you can imagine that the class of people to whom, at whom that paper was aimed at, they weren't particularly happy about that, and I think it probably was the beginning of the slippery slope for David Nutt. And apparently he received, subsequent to it being published in the British Journal of Psychiatry, which is a very prestigious publication, he was in his clinic the next day after it came out, and the Home Secretary phoned him in his clinic and started to tear strips off him while he was in his clinic, actually treating people. So here's a guy who's very serious about what he's doing, but he can't seem, for some reason, his views about drug harm seem to be very different from the views of the politicians who are actually signing up for policy, who are actually signing it off. What we've got here are a set of this is a set of criteria for determining drug harms. Now, has anybody not got that piece of paper with those 20 drugs on it? Everybody's got it? Okay. Now, just very quickly, what happened here is, what I want you to do is, and if anybody doesn't know the name of a particular drug, they could nominate it, mention it to me, and either myself or perhaps we've got some treatment sector people here, they'll be able to help us with what these particular drugs are and what they're known for. Now, I appreciate that some of you actually have a bit of a head start here, and for various reasons, but just see how we go. So, number one, no cheating on me. Number one is so this is in the actual drugs are here. Okay, those are the drugs, and those criteria that you're using. That list that was on the screen is exactly the same as the list you've got on your paper. These are the criteria. So there's physical harm, acute, long-term as in chronic, and intravenous, and that's clearly for certain drugs. The notion of dependence, which includes the intensity of pleasure, as well as psychological and physiological dependence. And then there's the social harms, which include intoxication, and you can think, for example, of alcohol, and perhaps compare that to another drug. It could be methamphetamine, it could be LSD or whatever. And then other social harms which might relate to a range of issues, which could even be related to policy or related to treatment and this sort of thing, and there's healthcare costs as well. What David Nutt and his colleagues did was they used what they call a Delphic procedure. And the Delphic procedure involves a kind of a consensus generating group. You have, in their case, they had 2 groups of medical scientific experts, including psychiatrists, toxicologists, pharmacologists, public health experts, etc. They had 2 of these groups, and they separately were asked to rank that list of drugs according to these criteria. When they each got their lists, they brought the lists together, and they then generated a master list, which they all felt, because of the process of consensus that they'd gone through, represented as closely as they could. I mean, to some extent there's going to be variations. It was a group of opinions, okay? But at the same time, they were trying to get a general consensus on the harmfulness of a range of drugs, and we'll see why this becomes relevant. So those are the criteria. And these are the drugs. Now, 4-MTA is it's an amphetamine-type stimulant. It's a synthetic stimulant. So it's quite like an amphetamine, except that it doesn't have the euphoric effect. It's also a club drug. So I guess it's more kind of a speed type thing. And there have been a few fatalities as a consequence of people using that in recreational environments. Alkyl nitrates, or amyl nitrate, is one of this class of substances, and otherwise known as poppers. That's another club drug. It's also used to intensify sexual pleasure. I think these ones here we know, barbiturates, benzos, includes things like Valium and so Buprenorphine is a semi-synthetic opioid used in the treatment of opioid dependence. So it's a little bit, I guess, like, not really like methadone, but more like naltrexone. So it actually stops you getting high, or it makes you feel ill if you combine opioids with it when you take it. So GHB was that the one that was used? Is the CD cleaning one? Is that the one? Ketamine is it's a paediatric anaesthetic, or it's used as a paediatric. It's an anaesthetic, and it's used for children now. It gives people full-on hallucinations. But it can also be used as an addiction interrupter, like ibogaine, except it's a synthetic substance. Cut is a naturally occurring ephedrine. It's a plant that grows in Africa, northeast Africa. Sorry. Yeah. Methylene phenidate is Ritalin. Has everybody heard of Ritalin? Anybody not heard of Ritalin? Okay. And street methadone is methadone diverted from clinical practice, where it's been used to treat people or stabilise people who are opioid dependent.
And also for pain.
And for pain.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Didn't realise that.
I have a pain clinic.
Oh, okay. Methadone. Oh, okay. All right.
Huge.
All right. Well, so there we have it.
Can still be street methadone. Yeah.
Ah, right. Okay. So there we have it. So let's go through them. Who's got? Someone give us number one. Who reckons what's the most dangerous one? Tobacco. Okay. Any more?
Alcohol.
Solvents. Alcohol. Okay. So this is number one. Okay. Yeah, it is. It's pretty bad stuff. Okay. Now, bearing in mind, of course, this is a set of opinions, and these guys aren't necessarily. This is not like this. These are the. This is information handed down on the stone tablets. This is a set of views taken from a group of medical and scientific people who made what they consider to be some solid ideas about this. Okay, number two, cocaine.
Okay.
Right.
It's also about availability.
It is about availability, and cocaine is very highly used, is frequently or significantly used in the UK, much more so than over here.
As is heroin.
Yeah. And so these are very good points, because of course that immediately brings up this notion of the fluidity of these criteria. Okay, barbiturates, street methadone, and surprise, alcohol. Okay, there we go. So alcohol's number 5. All right. Good on alcohol. We've got ketamine, number 6. That kind of surprised me, but this is the view of these people's their perspective. Benzos, amphetamine, tobacco, number 9. Okay, so it's in the top 10. There's cannabis there, 11. Solvents behind cannabis. And again, that kind of surprised me, but I guess it comes back to this notion of, well, what are the social conditions? What are people doing? What kind of access do people have? So you have to factor these things in when you're thinking about harms. Okay, LSD 14. And LSD, of course, in New Zealand is a Class A drug, as it is much as about everywhere in the world. These are the categories as they see A, B, and C, roughly. Now, so you've got so 3 of the 4 in the Class A category are in fact Class A drugs. However, ecstasy is down here, and this is a Class A drug in the UK. Okay, LSD is a Class A drug. 4-MTA is a Class A drug. So this is the categorisation of harms that we've just looked at in the previous slide, as they have decided in relation to how harmful things are. And this is where we see the Class A there is the dark bars. Okay, Class B is the lighter bars. So you've got things like methylphenidate there. And Class B, we've got amphetamine in Class B. Barbiturates are up here. They feel they're more harmful.
When was this done? Like
2007.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so on with Class C.